Welcome back to the 14th Jaipur Literature Festival. It is our last day here at Diggy. We're delighted to welcome you back, and of course, the festival continues to be protected by Dettol. It's our pleasure to present today Khaki Files, the badge of honor. Ajay Pal Lamba, Neeraj Kumar, and Amod Kanth in conversation with Meenal Baghel. A session of engrossing insider stories told by a prominent panel of law enforcers with literary flair and deep insight. Ajay Pal Lamba, Amod Kanth, and Neeraj Kumar, writers with a background in the Indian Police Service, speak with writer and journalist Meenal Baghel about their varied experience and how they transferred them through fact and fiction in their books. Ajay Pal Lamba has worked as superintendent of police in the districts of Jhunjhunu, Pali, Jaipur Rural, Jodhpur, Udaipur, and Alwar. He is currently the additional commissioner of police in Jaipur. As DCP Jodhpur, he supervised the investigation leading to the arrest of infamous Sant Asaram Bapu in 2013 in a sexual assault of a minor girl. He is the author of the book Gunning for the Godman. Neeraj Kumar retired as the Delhi Police Commissioner in 2013. During the 9 years he spent in the CBI, he investigated several high-profile cases, bringing dreaded criminals to justice. In his books Dial D for Don and Khaki Files, he recounts 20 of his sensational investigations. Season 1 and 2 of Delhi Crime on Netflix are based on stories from his second book. Amod Kanth, former DG Police, Arunachal and Goa, founder chairperson, Domestic Workers Sector Skill Council, and Delhi Child Right Commission, joint coordinator of Niti Aayog CSO Standing Committee, is a celebrated IPS officer and a nationally known voluntary sector leader. He has investigated nationally known crimes, including the Rajiv Gandhi, Lalit Makhan, and General A.S. Vaidya assassinations, the Hawala bank scam, and the Jessica Lal case. Meenal Baghel is an editor and writer. Most recently, she headed the Mumbai Mirror. She's the author of Death in Mumbai. Please do remember to comment and ask questions by typing it into the comment section below. And we will ask Meenal to ask these questions of our panelists later on the session. Ladies and gentlemen, Khaki Files, the badge of honor. Ajay Pal Lamba, Neeraj Kumar, and Amod Kanth in conversation with Meenal Baghel. Meenal, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjoy, and a very warm welcome to the fellow panelists. Each of you has been at the heart of some of India's biggest investigations, and we'll talk about some of these cases, but also about the nature of power and the rising contestations between the police and the public. Mr. Lamba, if I may begin with you, you investigated the Asaram Bapu case. Now, one of the extraordinary things of modern India has been the money and the power that has been accrued by some of these criminal godmen. And what are the challenges that arise from taking on these extra constitutional figures whose tentacles of power reach politicians, corporates, who can, who have such popular support?
It is very true that these high-profile criminals, especially if I talk about Asaram, who was hailed as Godman by his supporters, he was termed as Asaram Bapu. When the case has been registered against him, the case was of sexual assault against a minor girl. We have been pressurized, we have been threatened, even all those police officers who have been part of that team have been threatened, their family have been threatened, even those public prosecutors and even the judge, they have been threatened during the course of the investigation and trial of this case. Even few of the witnesses have been killed, 3 witnesses have been killed during the trial and few have been attacked. It is very true that such influential persons try to influence the whole criminal judicial system. But at the end of the day, if we go by the rule book, if we go by those theories and those training modules which have been given to us during our training sessions at the initiation of our career, I think we can nab the biggest or the greatest of the criminals. What I feel in this case was, though, yes, I can't deny from the fact that there is lot of influence, there is lot of pressure.
Ji.
But if you go, what is there written in black and white in the law, and if you follow those guidelines thoroughly, you can go ahead with your investigation and you can nab these influential persons also. In this particular case, the girl child was a very from a very normal family, and this Godman was having crores of his supporters. He was having millions of wealth. Even today, after 7 years of the case, few of his supporters are even approaching the jail where he is lodged in Jodhpur Central Jail. Few of his supporters are even terrorizing and threatening the victim. They are even approaching and threatening the judge who has delivered this judgment, even to the police officers. But at the end of the day, I can only say that the justice prevails, and the truth is always there against all these what should I say, all these bad elements in the society.
Well, your prosecution of Asaram Bapu actually has been one of the silver linings. Mr. Kanth, if I may ask you, that you dealt with the Sikh riots after the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi that broke out in Delhi. You mention in your book an instance where some of the Congress leaders forced themselves at the police station and they kind of tried to intimidate you and your men, and your senior officers of that time, they kind of just sort of looked on. I want to ask you that precisely what is it that happens when a police force is split in two? You know, half the force trying to do its job and the other half trying to sabotage it. What tensions does it create in such a situation?
No, I think the tensions are endless in these situations.
Mm.
And as you know, that 1984 riots was perhaps the biggest and the most talked about calamity in Delhi. And this was the worst thing to happen in the country, in fact, where 3,000 were killed in a particular city. So the situation was absolutely terrible. And we were trying to do our basic job. That was the thing. And then on that particular day, as you talk about it, you refer to an incident. In that incident, the local member of parliament, supported by other people, a lot of other politicians and small leaders, they turned up in the police station, in a particular police station, where I happened to be there, along with the Assistant Commissioner of Police and the station house officer, and of course, along with the Additional Commissioner of Police, who happened to be my boss, my senior. Before that, a lot of water had flown already, in the sense that the entire Delhi was engulfed in a terrible riot, and which I prefer to call pogrom now. At that point of time, legally speaking, I called it riots, but it was like large-scale killing. So, and we had done whatever we had done in central Delhi. Incidentally, Neeraj was my additional deputy commissioner of police in central Delhi. And central Delhi, it was believed subsequently, while the Rangnath Mishra commission sat on it and they investigated, examined the whole incident, I mean the entire range of incidents. And much later, Nanavati commission also looked into it. And they found that central Delhi was perhaps the best among all the districts of Delhi. We could control riots, although central, by the very name as it indicates, was the heart of Delhi, and huge mixed population, a large number of Sikhs being there in central Delhi. Out of 3,000 people who were massacred in the city of Delhi, the total number was just about 40 in central Delhi, and it's primarily because the fact that we acted. We tried to protect Sikhs, we tried to contain the riots, we opened fire, we did lathi charges. And in fact, if you look at the total number of Hindus and Sikhs killed, you will be surprised to hear now, which I have brought out in the book also. Almost half of the people killed were Hindus. Some of them were killed on account of firing that we did. So this was a peculiar position. And then during the riots, I mean, the riots started right on the day Indira Gandhi was killed. It was going on, and this particular incident happened a couple of days after that. So we had arrested about 1,000 people. We had recovered properties worth about 65 lakhs, which was a unique thing to happen in those times when the entire Delhi police was failing. And then at Karol Bagh police station, because of the previous loot in the biggest market of Karol Bagh, a lot of things had happened. We had arrested some people and we had recovered a lot of properties, new items, new electronic items, new gadgets which had been taken away from the shops, from the houses. And that was the point. The gentleman, the member of parliament, he came along with his supporters, and then he wanted them to be released. So obviously the station house officer, Ranveer Singh, who's no more, very strongly he had done the work. And several times I was present myself while the recoveries are being made, arrests were being made, and we're using force. So we protested, and that became a public scene kind of thing. You know, there is a book by Sanjay Suri, who wrote
Yes.
1984.
Yeah, but I just wanted to, like, what happens when your senior officers?
I'm just coming to that.
Yes.
So now, see, there was a point of view and it was a legal situation. And there was enough evidence that these guys had done it. Items were recovered already. They were lying in the police station. No issues about that. So he was trying to take a political view. And the politicians also wanted to create that situation, which was generally created in Delhi, that it was an emotional upsurge. As you know very well that at that point of time, a little later, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi made a statement about huge banyan tree falling, shaking earth and things like that, which of course could be an emotional kind of thing. And Indira Gandhi's assassination decided led to huge emotional upsurge. And large number of people were emotionally charged. And politicians and some of these workers, they were there. So it created a situation, but we could contain it. We did not allow things to be gone back, allowed to be taken back by people. We did not release those people whom we had arrested. So the law prevailed actually, and the truth prevailed, as we say. And it was an incident which happens. It happens all over the country. You know it very well. I mean, the Indian democracy is there in full bloom, full play all the time. And there are always contradictory views. And there are politicians, there are leaders who oppose the police on many situations. So this was one of those situations, but talked about subsequently and at that point.
Yes, of course. What I was asking, and if I may sort of come back to the question, is what happens when there are tensions within the police? I want you to talk, because those are insights that only all three of you gentlemen would have, that it's not something that we as outsiders would get a sense of. Could you talk a little bit about that? What happens when there are dissensions within the police ranks?
It's a very, very difficult situation. And let me tell you that these tensions and these, let's say, difference of opinion comes or approaches differ in a particular situation. Then the police officers who are upholding the law, the police officers who are trying to do the right thing, and the police officers who are supporting the common people who are aggrieved by it, I mean, they suffer at times. Many a times they suffer. It always happens. I mean, in the police hierarchy, both my colleagues from police will agree. In the police hierarchy, if the leaders are absolutely clear what they are trying to do, generally their subordinates follow them. But then if amongst the leaders, you find someone who is sounding a dissenting note and who is being a little different than what you think, so that's a very, very bad situation. Many a times the junior officer lose out. Many a times we have to go away. In fact, in my book also I have referred, only thrice I was posted in these positions. As Assistant Commissioner of Police, I was in Pondicherry. In Pondicherry, a peculiar situation came, and there was a conflict between ordinary kiosk man and MLA who was almost holding the government. And the government was there because of one MLA. It was a kind of equally divided the position among the MLAs. And I supported that kiosk fellow in a particular situation where there was a big fight between the kiosk fellow and the MLA. And of course, the chief minister at that point of time, who happened to be a lawyer, I had an argument with him. He saw me out. I could not complete my tenure in Pondicherry. I was in Goa again. There was a big dispute with regard to that. And among the police officers, there are other views also. I was asked to quit. In my last posting also in Arunachal Pradesh, I was asked to quit. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, as a police officer, if you're doing your job, you have support in the force and service, you have support among the people, you stand out and do your job.
So basically, you take the risk sometimes of not being able to do the job to the fullest extent.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
So sometimes you have to take the risk by standing your ground of not being able to finish the job to the fullest extent because of pulls and pressures.
It almost always happens. See, this particular book, Khaki in Dust Storm, as you know, is mostly about 10 years of the most violent decade of India, as I call it, and many others understand. 80s were the most violent decade. That was there.
Yes.
But then subsequently, I did many other cases. In CBI, for example, there was a case, Hawala case. You must have heard Jan Hawala.
Yes.
Mehta cases. And there were other cases where the matter went up to the Prime Minister of India. I mean, you know, the allegations of the Prime Minister of India. We started investigating that particular point. We were chasing a particular trail, and a point came when one became helpless because the truth was leading you to a particular explosive situation where it would have been continued. I was out again. The point is very clear that even if you lose out, for example, and your journey is half covered, it's fine. I mean, for me, I will not become a rebel just because my journey is not completed. You understand that? So I've taken that view, and for that reason also, time and again, I found myself in some very interesting assignments. I've been declared a total rebel, like some of my colleagues are declared, but I would not have got the opportunity to work in situations I did. Very interesting career. I got opportunities to work in very, very critical assignments almost my entire career. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you are able to complete your task or not. You tried, and you are in that process, and you made attempts to do it, and sincere attempts, and you had the support also in many quarters. That's good. You understand?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Amod Khan talked about leadership and how important it is. You, of course, have been Commissioner of Police Delhi, and you understand the power that the big job entails, and you have you have been at the heart of some of the most sensational cases, which whether it was the betting racket or or the Nirbhaya case. I wanted to ask you something slightly different. Today we are exactly a year since the Delhi riots broke out. I wanted to understand that, and Delhi police seems to be suffering from a serious crisis of credibility. As somebody who has headed the Delhi police, and of course you are not responsible for what's happening at the moment, but do you think it's impossible for Delhi police to not be the handmaiden of the dispensation, whichever party it may be?
First of all, Meenal, I would like to dispel this popular perception that the Delhi police is the handmaiden of the government in power. We are the most blessed police force in the country because we are not under the local politicians. The local government, they have nothing to do with us. We report directly to the Ministry of Home Affairs. And contrary to popular perception again, the Union Home Ministry does not meddle with the day-to-day functioning of the Delhi police. It's only once in a while some home minister, an odd home minister, likes to play the super cop. There was a situation, I'll give you a concrete example. The Anna Hazare movement, the India Against Corruption movement. Anna Hazare, on one particular day, it was ordered that Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal, Sishodia, and others should be arrested. And in the same afternoon, the same Home Minister ordered that they should be released because there was so much of public reaction. But this kind of situation is few and far between because normally the Home Minister does not interfere in the day-to-day functioning. If the popular narrative or everyone likes to believe, say that Disha Ravi has been arrested because of an order which came from Amit Shah. Believe me, it is not so. I mean, Amit Shah doesn't have the time or the energy or the inclination to go into these nitty-gritties. These decisions are taken by the Commissioner of Police.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is for the Commissioner of Police. There may be an odd Commissioner of Police who would sense or who would judge what my Home Minister would like and what he would not like, and go accordingly. That is the problem of the Commissioner of Police. It is not the problem of the Home Minister. I was Commissioner of Police for a very short period, only 13 months. But never once, never even once, was I asked to do something against my volition. Yes, the only thing the Union Home Minister then was interested in doing was posting of station house officers. Believe it or not. And
But we know why, right?
sorry?
Because we know why, right? Because the
Yes.
station house officers
Yeah.
are.
So, and I had to tell him, sir, you are the Home Minister of the country. I mean, why are you interested in posting a certain inspector to a certain police station in Delhi? And of course, he didn't like my saying that. But the first point I want to make is that the Delhi police, whether it is the Northeast Delhi riots or the present action against Disha Ravi, Nikita Jacob,
Narwal,
or
Jacob,
Shantanu, and the entire thing, the Home Ministry is not involved. Number one. Number two, it is the leader of the force who sets the tone of a certain investigation or the way the entire police force functions under him. So, in brief, that's my view. Well, people may differ. People may say, wo Northeast riots, it was all done at the behest of the BJP government and all. It is not true. If there are very, very few cases, and my senior under whom I have trained also, Mr. Amod Kanth will bear me out, that it's not very often that investigations, and that too cyber investigations, take place after a riot. Both of us dealt with 1984 riots. I mean, people we caught at the spot during the riots. We interrogated them. We found out who were their compatriots, and we caught them subsequently. But those those were not the days where we could analyze telephone records, where we could go into email accounts, and so on and so forth. But both the Northeast Delhi riots and the present Red Fort riots on the 26th of January this year. In both these cases, the bulk of the investigation was done after the riots, and those investigations were done in the cyberspace. They were done on various platforms. In fact, one should also understand that cyber investigations are not like the regular investigations. Regular investigations, you have an information, go and pick up somebody from Ghaziabad, you go send a team, and that fellow gets picked up. Or send a team to Gurgaon, so pick up so and so. In cyber space, what you have to do is that you have to approach the platforms. You have to approach, say, WhatsApp, Facebook, Signal, Telegram, and there are a host of them, and people are communicating these days on voice over internet protocol. So to get information and to get convincing evidence, you have to request those platforms to provide with those digital footprints. And that takes a lot of time. So I'll just end up by saying that the Northeast Delhi riots, the investigations took place after the riots, and most of the people who were arrested on the basis of their digital footprints that they left behind. There was a conspiracy, and as we all know as police officers, no riots are spontaneous. Even if they are spontaneous, very soon political forces join in, and larger conspiracies are hatched with larger designs, and many more actors start playing. It was not the entire farmer movement which was directed towards the Red Fort. It was only a very, very small section of the farmers who were protesting went to the Red Fort. Why only that section? Because there was a kind of meeting of minds.
Hmm.
And how did the police come to this conclusion that there was meeting of minds? It was on account of cyber investigations, investigations based on telephone records, on email.
So,
One or two
Yeah.
points I would like to say. That
yes, sure.
I think, Meenal, it's very important to understand.
Yes, of course.
They are being talked about, and the police comes not only as doing a particular situation, tackling a particular situation. Let's say the recent 26th January incident, or and now, of course, Disha scale and all that stuff. See, Delhi police, which is supposed to be perhaps the best provided police force, not only in India but world. Delhi police is 85,000 plus strong. No other metropolitan police force in the world is as big as Delhi is. Delhi is not the largest city in the world. It's one of the largest cities. And secondly, cyber crimes and these kinds of latest techniques of investigations, Delhi police has deployed. Neeraj himself has been a very good investigator. I subscribe it. Now, all of us have investigated many, many cases. Now, the issue is that it has to present itself in a manner which is more convincing.
Yes.
See, the fact that Delhi police registered about 755 cases soon after Northeast riots is a remarkable thing, in my opinion. I remember in 84 riots, we had very few cases. In fact, my district stood out for registering more cases, because registration of cases takes to investigations and truth come out of it. But now the issue is that there are some fundamental problems. The issue, see, it is not necessary to arrest anybody.
Yes.
See, I have worked in CBI for several years, and prior to my joining CBI, that is about 1990s, when I took up Rajiv Gandhi case, I didn't have the tradition of arresting people. Let me inform you. Being senior agency, CBI did not arrest majority of people. We filed the case in the court of law, and the court used to summon. Also clarify, and Neeraj should know about it, that the prison population of India, I mean, 66,000 people happen to be in jail today. Among them, 70% are non-convicted. They are under trials. And I was very aghast to hear that Delhi police percentage is very high. 82% of those who are there through Delhi police in the prison kind of situation, 82%, mind you, they happen to be under trials. It is not a good situation. Why arrest people suddenly? I mean, Disha's case, whatever happened, I have not gone so deep into it, but I understand. In many cases, you have the opportunity to arrest or not to arrest. And what happens really, nationally speaking, that people start thinking, because of the lack of confidence in the criminal justice system, which is torturing like hell, the criminal justice system, which is collapsing at many places. You understand, we talked about subject. People think that if you arrest a person, justice is done.
Yes.
Cannot be a punishment. Arrest is a kind of detention under which investigation is carried out. Somebody who must be kept behind the bars for whatever reasons, very strong reasons, arrest is made. Delhi police or any other police force has to put up an example. And cybercrime, for example, cybercrime, it's an open space now. We're trying to understand what the cybercrime happens to be. It's a global thing which is happening in that space. So there, it's a difficult investigation. The point I'm trying to make, that the Indian police has to change. One or two points, if you permit me, I'll put across.
Sure.
My book also.
Yes.
Two things I would like to say. Number one, the Indian criminal justice system as a whole is an archaic, outdated, and terrible institution, the entire criminal justice system, where the police is prime mover. The courts are there, the prosecution is there, the lawyers are there, okay? And convict, of course, under trials, they are all part of it. 1860s, it was set up, soon after first Indian War of Independence. And that system still goes on. That is which controls not only Indian police, it controls the criminal justice system. It must go someday. It must be refined. It is not happening because all these stakeholders who are in position of power and authority would not like it to change. That is an important thing which is subject to be discussed, and all these things are part of it. Second important thing which I have brought out in the book also, that's all community policing. The community policing, that is policing for the deprived, children, women, disabled, elderly, that kind of policing, where those people who deserve the policing and police support most are not really the stakeholders. They are outside the scene. So I'm trying to put across the point of view that if the police has to really succeed, I mean, 2.5 million police force cannot control 1.3 billion people, understand? entire country we have got only 2.5 million police.
Yeah. So that's where I guess some imbalance of power comes in, and it may be as Neeraj Kumar said, that sometimes maybe the heads of police may end up second guessing their political bosses. Yes, Mr. Kumar, please, you wanted to say something.
2 points very
Yes.
briefly.
Yes.
One is the problem of perception management.
Ji.
The police in general and Delhi police in particular, they are zilch, absolutely zilch in perception management. Now, I am saying all this to you with so much of conviction that the action taken by the Delhi police post Northeast Delhi riots or post Red Fort riots with so much of conviction is because it so happens that I have seen the details of the investigation. Somebody came and showed me, shared the details with me. And I said, if you people are on such solid ground, why don't you communicate? There are ways and means to communicate and let people understand that whatever action you have taken, whether it is against student activists or whether against the NGOs and so on and so forth, you have done so on the basis of solid evidence. That has not gone across and no attempt has been made. We do not have any institution, any machinery to convey our point. I just want to tell you one small thing. In London, which is less than half of the Delhi police, there is a PR team which consists of 67 PR professionals. And those PR professionals, Meenal, are people like you, your good self, and people who have served in media for 20 years, 30 years. They retired as editors or they quit as editors. There are people who are masters at advertising, who have spent time, and they manage the perception of the people towards the police. Just to give you a small example, there was that shooting at the tube station in London, in which an innocent person was killed. That is a case study. How the popular perception against the police, so much against the Metropolitan Police on the first day or maybe the second day. The third day, the entire perception changed. And mind you, an innocent person had been killed. Fact was that he was killed by mistake, by mistaken identity. Why did that happen? Because this professional PR team that they have at their disposal, I've had the good luck of interacting with them also on one of my visits, official visits. And so they explained how we manage it. Here there is no attempt. अरे हमने कर दिया, जिनको जो बोलना है बोलते रहे, जिनको जो लिखना है लिखते रहे, ये तो इनका काम ही है बोलना, ये फलाना है, ढिमकाना है, लिबटार्ड्स हैं, लिबर्टेरियंस हैं, फलाना है. So that is one approach. The second point I want to make about which my revered colleague Mr. Kanth made about arrests, that there is a tendency
to arrest first and then
give you the example of Disha Ravi. Again, I say this because I'm privy to some information which perhaps others are not. Now, on the 11th of February, the first person to be touched by the Delhi police was Nikita. The Delhi police reached Bombay with a search warrant at the residence of Nikita Jacob. Nikita Jacob was present, the search was carried out, and then the police told her that, we'll come to you again tomorrow and we'll talk to you and please, make yourself available. The next day when they came, Nikita absconded. And Nikita absconded, and then, as you know, she eventually got a bail from the High Court. The same story was repeated by Shantanu. Now, on a later date, they reach Disha Ravi. Disha Ravi is, while she was being interrogated, she deleted that WhatsApp conversation that had taken place. Then, what do you expect the Delhi police to do, or any police investigation to do? To tell her that, well, we'll come to you tomorrow and then we'll talk to you? they took that decision on the spur of the moment, the people who had gone there, uh, on account of their experience with Nikita and Shantanu. Okay, that is one. The second thing is, at the end of the day, the discretion to arrest or not to arrest, rightly or wrongly, rests with the investigating officer. He has to take a call whether I can meet the ends of justice, whether I can take the investigation to its logical conclusion by arresting the person and subjecting him or her to custodial interrogation, or without doing so.
So that of course, it remains a very contested, because if we had lawyers on this panel, they would be saying something else entirely. You said something interesting about creating perception management. I can tell you, as one of my pet peeves as editor has been that that a lot of police officers have now excelled at off the record briefings, which creates its own perception management. But I want to bring in Mr. Lamba on this. I wanted to ask you that in a high profile case where there is tremendous media scrutiny, like the one that you dealt with, what are the pressures that you experience?
Ma'am, before starting and answering your question, I will continue from the point where Neeraj sir was talking about the perception management.
Ji.
When this case was registered, the case was registered by Delhi police, and the incident was of Jodhpur. The case was registered by Delhi police after 5 days of the incident, and then this case was sent to Jodhpur police for further investigation. Because of this delay in the registration of the case, the whole country was making huge noise. There was a lot of hue and cry by the supporters that Asaram Bapu is falsely implicated because of if the incident would have been a genuine incident, then this girl might have reported it to Jodhpur police only. So what we did was we initiated the investigation. We took the media briefing daily. We briefed media in the morning and evening. And what we experienced at that time was media wants news. Media wants news, not the views. And media needs new facts every time. So whatever investigation we were doing, we were providing media all those facts which we were unearthing without hampering the investigation. And within few days, the entire country, which was in support of Assaram, was against the Assaram after 7 days and asking and pressurizing the media, or I would say the public opinion was pressurizing Jodhpur police to arrest Assaram. Second thing, which Neeraj sir was telling about the arrest, when we get this case registered and when we interrogated and when we written down the statement of the child, the very first day we would have gone for the arrest of Assaram. And I swear that if we would have done that, he would have been given the bail very next day. Because by that time, our case file was having hardly the few evidences. So sometimes police in this public pressure, public perception, we go for early arrest, and that is somewhere we falter. So now I will continue from the question which you put to me, that how we handle these pressures. As both of my senior colleagues were saying, that investigating officer took the decision about arrest or no arrest. Investigating officer is the one who decides the fate of the case. The senior officers are there only to guide the investigating officer. So first thing to control these pressures, or I can say to suppress this pressure, is we try to isolate the investigating officer from the public glare, from the media, from the public perception. And that media role or the PR role should be handled by some separate team that should be completely isolated from the investigating officer. And whenever media poke you to some difficult questions or some uneasy questions, that questions can be left to the investigating officer by saying that this can't be revealed. This can be decided by investigating officer only. So during that investigation, this is how we have been helped, and that public perception was built up in favor of Jaipur police.
No, I mean, you're raising a very excellent point. And when you say that the media, I mean, if we can start talking to media about news and not views, I mean, you can actually change perception in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Meenal, Ajay has made a very, very interesting point. It's
Yes.
a very
Yes.
important point he made. The point he made that the investigating team going on the hard facts, which is going according to law, which is going with unfolding situations in the case. If the investigating officer is proper, he knows his job, the team is there to do that case. Neeraj said earlier that the senior most officers set the tone for investigation. That's perfectly in place and very. That's, I mean, the senior officers, they set the tone. I mean,
Yes, yes, yes.
but once the investigation starts, it is better that the investigating officers at the cutting edge level where they're investigating. And it is really good. It's a advisable thing, as Ajay was trying to put it out. Investigating team should be left alone, should not be in the midst of the media all the time. In fact, the cases are destroyed. I'm sorry to say, because the media are coming and trampling not only scene of crime, but trampling over the entire process of investigation.
Yeah, but you know, why is the crime scene so rarely secured in India?
No, but see, this is an unprofessional way of doing it. I mean, we have come across crime scenes which are not protected at all, and that destroys the case. Let me refer to the crime scene of Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. You know, this case was transferred to CBI, as you know. The crime took place on 21st May 1991, and Mr. R.K. Raghavan, who had become, ultimately, he became director CBI, one of the finest police officers I have come across. Mr. R.K. Raghavan was IG of the area in Tamil Nadu where Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. Sri Perambur was part of his territory. Let me inform you that Mr. R.K. Raghavan protected the scene of crime practically personally. When I went along with the team the very third day, I mean, the second day I got the information that CBI is taking over case. Vijay, current director CBI, told me to go to Tamil Nadu, and I went to Tamil Nadu. But when let me inform you, such a thing that this case would have gone to dogs. It was very difficult to kind of work out Rajiv Gandhi assassination case with the scene of crime being protected. And thank R.K. Raghavan. So crime is not a business to be looked after by the constables and head constables only. Most officer must take care to ensure that the scene of crime is protected. Crime is the beginning of investigation. So the entire process of investigation should be that way protected, so that the investigating officers are able to give their best.
Yeah. Well, I'll just last question, Mr. Kumar. Yes, sorry, I was actually going to come to you, and then we'll end this.
No, please go ahead.
Yes.
I just wanted to react to what you said just in passing.
Yes.
That in your experience, there have been many police officers
who
are masters at briefing the media or interacting with the media
off the record. Yes.
And you would bear me out with your long years of experience that most of such officers in those off the record briefings are only promoting themselves. Most of the time, they like to promote themselves. The unfortunate part of the police PR management is that officers like to project themselves rather than project the good work. There are of late there is a judgment from the Supreme Court that certain details of the investigation should not be shared with the media and so on. So to manage, to convey to the people that look, your police force is doing the right thing, irrespective of what the noise is being created in the echo chamber. It is not an easy job. It is a very it is a job which requires expertise. It has to be done very subtly. It has to be broken in very subtly. It has to be developed very subtly, and so that the police's point of view gets put across. Whether it is Asaram Bapu case or whether it is any case, it is the right of a common viewer to know why their police force is acting in a certain way and not acting in the way that the whole world is asking them to do. And it is there that we fail. That's all.
Okay, I'm just going to just one last question. This is from one of our viewers, and then I would like you to, if you can respond very briefly, though it is a very major issue, on police brutality. I would like all three of you, because this is something that people are asking. There have been 2 or 3 questions. If you could briefly talk about why is it that we continue to employ brutality to the extent that we do?
Unprofessional. In my opinion, the police brutality is a direct outcome. Certain kind of policing that we have been carrying on, I mean, including the so-called heroic policing, including so-called encounters. I think, these things are the acceptance of certain illegalities in the process. Have got to be totally legal. I think if the rule of law is there, it must prevail. And the rule of law is most important for the policeman to follow. And if the policeman takes the shortcuts and starts third degree and things like that and doesn't treat the people properly, ultimately the gainers and losers in the process is the main stakeholder, the common man. Common man, or the person who comes to police or interacts with the process, if he or she is not properly treated, understood, it's a failure. So I would like to say that's unprofessional. Unprofessional way of handling things, illegal way of handling things that leads to police brutality.
Mr. Lamba, if you can come in, is it because that there are really no consequences to the police brutality that it continues?
No, there are very serious consequences of police brutalities, and that police brutality is not at all allowed. It is completely illegal, and if we do the policing in unprofessional manner, then it happens. But at the same time, some rare cases which we find in some of the cases, they are the result of the failure of criminal justice system. Somehow, if the burglary happens in your house, in my house, we caught hold of the thief, and now every citizen wants that something which have been stolen by this thief must be recovered. For that, there has to be some scientific ways, some legal remedies for that. Those legal remedies are somehow missing. That overhauling of the whole criminal judicial system, right from police, from prosecution, from courts and jails, all those 4 organs must be overhauled. Then only these brutalities will go away. Otherwise, here and there, some isolated incident, some exception will be there. It is not acceptable in this modern society, in our democracy, but unfortunately, this is the reality.
Mr. Kumar, last word to you. There seems to be an increasing sort of gap between the police and public, and there seems to be a kind of sort of, what shall we say, increasing trust deficit. How do you see that can be bridged?
As I said, it's all about, first of all, the actions, how you actually behave on the ground. You can have any amount of, community policing or, media hype or this or that. But when a guy walks into a police station with a complaint and he is not treated well, he is not spoken to properly, then, all that you do will fail. If your product is not of a good quality, however much you might advertise about it, it will not sell. The product itself should be very good. So first of all, our entire behavioral pattern towards dealing with public has to change. And this is a battle which is ongoing, and it will take, I think, decades for it to reach a level where you can say that now at least it is satisfactory. But let me tell you that there has been improvement. it has been, we have seen the improvement over the 30, 35 years. I have served 37 years in the police. There I have seen tremendous improvement in police behavior. Also in the reduction of police brutality. There was a time where brutality was the order of the day. It was the sort of rule. But today it is really exceptional. And before a police officer, resorts to any custodial torture or any such thing, he thinks 10 times. Even though what you see on television, cutting loose with their lathis and beating up innocent people. But in sheer comparative terms, we are on the mend.
All right, that's great. I think we've run out of time, and so thank you very much. This is something that we can go on talking about, and we should. But thank you very much for being a part of this session. Sanjoy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Meenal, Ajay Lamba, Amod, Kanth, and Neeraj Kumar. Heartened by hearing Neeraj Kumar saying that things have improved. We hope that cases like the Jairaj and Benik's case down south, and more recently cases up north as well, where people have been subjected to enormous police brutality, does change. Absolutely fascinating conversation with the four of you. We thank our celebration partners, Diageo. Thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. And thank you, Meenal Baghel, for these bringing to the fore these compelling insider stories. Please do remember